Today, we're going to talk through overhead crane systems and how to best ensure your safety when utilizing this equipment. Today, we're going to be learning about overhead crane safety. There's lots of risks and hazards that present itself when working with overhead cranes. And the first thing that we want to check on is the control panel inspection. We want to make sure that the wiring is properly connected to the pennant and check that there's no visible damage or frayed wiring or anything along those lines. Secondly, we want to look at the load hook and the safety latch inspection. Ensure that the safety latch is properly closed across the hook throat. Do not use the hook that has been stretched or has any damage to it. Do not replace the safety latch of the stretched hook with a longer safety latch. Check for cracks, weld marks, bent shanks, or any other signs of damage. Report any signs of damage to your immediate supervisor or foreman. When it comes to examining the load-bearing rope, make sure that you do this prior to doing any lifting. It's crucial when it comes to the safety for the lift that you're about to perform, and inspect for any signs of wear, tear, or corrosion. Prior to using an overhead crane, it's important to check that ladders, stairways, and raised walkways are clear of any missing parts or damages that can impact the success of the lift. Even after a thorough inspection and pre-operation testing, overhead crane operations poses significant hazards unless the load is correctly balanced, rigged, and secured. Load rigging procedures require the following: a rated load capacity of the sling, the hook itself, and the lifting device, selecting a proper gear to rig with, determining the correct sling size and angles when necessary, and protecting the sling against hazards. Your pre-operations checklist is extremely important. You want to begin with our operating controls. Each function must be tested no matter how frequent or how infrequently it's used. Operate the crane in a few feet each direction. Listen and look for any sounds or movement that could indicate damage. Check with the emergency stop button to make certain that that's working properly. Verify that the wire is spooling properly on the drum when the load is raised and lowered. When it comes to actually operating the crane, there's a lot of steps that you want to take to ensure safety. First, perform below the hook device inspection. Check for damage of the spreader bars, any of the pulleys or slings. Start the lift slowly to minimize the swing of the load to make sure that the rigging job is properly holding and there is no slipping. Raise the load high enough to be clear of any obstacles in one smooth motion. Avoid any abrupt moves. Remember, overhead cranes are designed for vertical lifts. If the load is pulled sideways, serious damage or catastrophic crane failure could result. Once the load is properly raised, you can move the load to the desired location. Never carry a load over the top of someone. When the crane is in position, slowly lower the load to its set point. Keep hands away from any pinching points and stop when the load block is low enough to unhook the sling. If the load is free swinging and needs to be turned for placement, taglines should be affixed to at least two corners of the load so that the load can be turned properly without standing under or close to the load while it's in the air. If you have an emergency, shut off the main disconnect switch for the crane. Make sure that you know the location of the main disconnect switch and the type of crane that you're operating does not have a disconnect box nearby. The stop button should be on the control pennant to shut off the power to the crane. When it comes to overhead crane operations, some of the required safety practices that we recommend are: never move the load over a coworker. Do not permit coworkers to walk underneath the load. Return the load block to its designed location after use. Do not leave the block low enough that someone can run into it. Never leave it suspended and unattended. Do not leave unused slings suspended by the crane hook where they could become snagged by passing equipment. If it has a designated storage area, move the crane to that location. Continually observe the equipment for any signs of problems during the operation. Pay attention to what you're doing and don't allow yourself to become careless or distracted. As always, with any concerns that you may have, please bring it to the attention of your direct supervisor so we can make sure that we're addressing these concerns and getting any issues fixed. Thanks for tuning in.